Hello and welcome to Knitting on the Float. My name is Tracy and I'm your host. I am coming to you from an absolutely gorgeous day in the Vancouver area. I was going to say it's cloud-free. Up above, it's cloud-free. Over to the side, over the trees, I see a few little clouds, but it's pretty spectacular out. I hope that wherever you are well and that you are also enjoying some nice weather. Summer in the Northern Hemisphere, spring and summer, makes me so happy, and we are still in spring, but it is starting to feel a little bit more like summer, so those sunny days will always bring me so much joy. So I hope that you are experiencing the same thing, whether you're in the Northern Hemisphere or starting to enjoy some fall in the Southern Hemisphere. It has been maybe about 2 or 3 weeks since we sat down last, and I have a lot to share on the podcast today, which is amazing. I've got some things that I picked up when I was at Knit City. I have some lovely gifts. I have some chatter about tea as well. So even some work got done on some projects. Finished object and a half. We'll talk about that. So lots to chat about. But before I get to that, let me tell you where you can find me. I am Tracy RR on Ravelry, and I am at Knitting on the Float on Instagram. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. This is a podcast where I primarily talk about knitting, and as I mentioned, there is some tea talk today. There is also a lot of knitting talk. I have some fabric to share as well. So it's a mixed bag. So welcome, and I hope that you enjoy. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I know you have your requisite cup of whatever it is that you are drinking, whether it is hot or cold. You have your project of choice, and you are ready to take some time for yourself as I share what I've gotten up to in the past 2 weeks. And it has been a fun, busy, very eventful, but very rewarding 2 weeks. So I'm excited to share some of the things that have happened there. Plus, I forgot to share some things last time on the podcast that I've been excited to tell you about, but totally slipped my mind. Before we get to all of the content that I have beside me, let us start off with some tea time. And I am drinking out of my lovely Who Says We Have to Grow Up mug. It only says it on the one side, so I had to make sure I had it right when I turned that around. And today I am drinking something very special. I am drinking Sloan Earl Grey tea. And I got this on my Porter flight from Toronto because I love Sloan tea. It's very hard to come by these days. I did try to pick some up when I was in Toronto, but the store that I thought I was going to get some at was closed, so I was not able to get some Sloan tea. I do prefer their cream of Earl Grey, or it's their Heavenly Cream, it's called. I prefer that, but Porter only has Earl Grey, black tea, and then they have a few of their non-caffeinated teas on the flight as well. But if I can get Earl Grey, I definitely will. So I did say I wanted to talk a little bit about tea, so I will get to my tea chatter before I do our cheers, and then move on to knitting and crafting things. So let us start off with some new teas that I was able to acquire while I was away. And the first one is Tasmanian breakfast tea. I have not tried this yet, but it is some lovely bag teas that, now that I have finally unpacked my suitcase, which I did just before coming out here. I know I've been home for a week now, but I left everything in the suitcase so that when I sat down to podcast, I knew where everything was. So I now have some Tasmanian breakfast tea, and this was a gift from the lovely Karina, who is Louie and Lola Yarns. I had gone to Toronto to help her with her Knit City booth, and as a thank you, she brought me some Tasmanian breakfast tea. So that is one of my new teas. Plus, when I was in Toronto, Ontario area, My mother and I went down to visit my lovely sister-in-law just on the other side of the border. And on our way back, we went to Niagara-on-the-Lake and to the Greaves. They sell jams and preserves, and they also have some other lovely products. So I did buy some mint jelly because their Greaves mint jelly is fantastic. And because I had a packed suitcase, I could bring over 100 milliliters home. So I may have bought a few. I brought a couple back for gifts for some people. Plus, I love lambs, so brought some for me. And while I was in Greaves, I saw this black currant tea and thought I would try it. So picked that up while I was there too. Now, a few weeks ago, I was in a store in North Vancouver, and I think it's called Murchie's. Either Murchies or Merchies. And they sell a lot of tea. And one thing that I've had for many, many years is this Finum strainer. And it's fabulous. I love it. And it has a little lid, so when you've got your loose tea inside, you can pop it in your mug, and it just sort of sits on your mug. You pull it out, put it on this little lid, and because the plastic mesh is so fine, this is great for teas like rooibos, and you don't get the leak through like you would from like a plastic or metal strainer, you know, that has bigger holes. I got distracted because I threw this on the ground. I've had this for years, absolutely love it. And when I was at Murchie's, I saw they had two other kinds. And I have used this in a pot of tea, but the problem is if the pot is a little bit too wide, you have to kind of be really careful because it can just go flop and then you have loose tea floating in your teapot. Well, I was excited to find that Finum has this here, and throwing things around. You can put this in the strainer to let it drip afterwards, but it's great. You just put the lid on like this and pop it in your teapot, and I thought it locked for some strange reason. Maybe that's the other one that I'm going to share with you. But anyway, this one is great for a teapot, and it easily pops out. There's a way to turn it and pop it out so that you can clean it. So when I saw that Finum had a teapot version, I wanted to pick that up. Plus, I also saw they had this little floating cup version. This is the one that locks into place. Because sometimes if you've got like a really big mug, and I've got a few really big mugs, again, they tip over and then you have loose tea in your tea, and that's just not as nice. So this one is a little floating basket. You pop your leaves in, pop the lid on, and then you just plop it in, and then you can reach in and pull it out once you're finished. It does not do, I mean, I guess you could sort of pop it there and do that if you wanted to and let it drain. So yeah, I guess it does. Anyway, these are from Finum, Finum, and like I said, I've had this one for years, probably about 15 years at least, and I love it. It's still in great condition, goes in the dishwasher. So when I saw these other ones, I definitely had to get those, plus a couple other teas. I know I don't usually talk a lot during tea time other than a quick cheers, but today I wanted to share some of those favorite tea things. So let us cheer to sharing some of our favorite things, old and new. Cheers to that. Because you know what? I actually have something older on the couch that I'm going to share with you too. I hope you have a super big beverage and a really fantastic craft, because I think it might take us a while to get through what's on the couch today, and that's okay. I'm going to start off with the project that I just alluded to, where I said something I've had for a while, and that is in my lovely Bags by Awesome Granny Firefly bag. This has been done since April of last year, but it was only 2 nights ago that I went out and finally took photographs and updated my Ravelry to go from unfinished to finished. So you have seen this as a finished object, but it's just so pretty. I had it out. I thought I definitely had to share it again. And that is my Second Avenue wrap. And this is a pattern, I believe, by Amy Miller. And I used a kit that was available at the Knitting Loft in Toronto. And so when I was at the Knitting Loft in Toronto this past, I guess, a week and a bit ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess, I was sharing their store sample and showing that to Karina, because Karina of Louie and Lola and I went up to the Knitting Loft together. So I pulled this out to share with her. And yes, I finally photographed this beautiful, beautiful shawl, and I can now wear it because it's now considered a finished object, even though it has been done, as I said, for over a year. I think I finished it April 28th, 2023. So the fact that it took me a year and a month to photograph is just a little bit silly, but I got some nice photos. Anyway, that is my Second Avenue wrap. This was made with the Peony Shawl Kit from the Knitting Loft, and I love pink and green, so I think this one will be something that I go to, especially when it starts to get a bit chilly in the fall. Nice, bright, happy colors. And I can finally put my project bag away. I think I'll put this in the cedar chest until fall and wear it. That'll be really, really nice. So that is one thing I didn't have to share again, but thought it would be fun too. So revisiting an old thing. Okay, let's get to the projects at hand that I've been working on. And this project here has graduated into a big bag because it's now getting too big for the bag it had been in. Plus, I ended up using the bag to take with me to Toronto. This is my bits and bobs, and I haven't made a huge amount of progress since we sat down last. It's been a couple of weeks. I would have loved to have taken this to Toronto with me, but a couple reasons why I didn't. A, it's so big, and it would have taken up a lot of space, and I knew I probably wouldn't get a whole lot of time to work on it, and it is getting really quite heavy. So Bits and Bobs is a pattern by K.F. Jones of the Bakery Bears, and it is like a fisherman's rib pattern, so soft, so squishy, and I have been using Hedgerow Yarns Sparkly Sock Blanks as one of my yarns to hold double with, and then I've been using leftover yarns. So right now I am still in this pink that I was using a couple of weeks ago when we sat down, and I have one more color. I believe I'm just going to add this last one in, and then I just have to figure out what I will use for the edging for the I-cord edging, but I think this is going to be so fun when I get to this color. It is starting to get really, really big. Hold my needle so that it does not come off because I do not want to lose any of these, but oh my goodness. And this is, at this point, unblocked, unwashed. I'm reaching back as far as I can, so hopefully you can see all of the different color shifts. And it's been so fun using up all of the yarns that I've loved and just making little bits of bobs of progress as I've worked on it. Now, I started this on June 17th of last year, and I would love to have this done by June 17th of this year. All the ends sewn in, the I-cord edging around there. It's certainly doable, but I've been working on some other things too, so we will see. I do love sitting down with this one, but goals. And really, tomorrow is the 1st of June. I could do that. I could easily get that last little bit of pink and this bit of purple. I have this sock blank here, and then in the knitting table, I have another sock blank just in case I need it. It's a sparkly one. So maybe the next time we sit down, I will have a completed Bits and Bobs blanket. We can always hope. My Bits and Bobs has graduated into this big boy bag, but hopefully it won't be in here for long because I am hoping that I will be able to spend a little bit more time with it. And when I talk about especially one of the other projects on the couch, you will understand why the Bits and Bobs didn't get as much love as I probably would have liked to have given it, but that's okay. I've got a few days ahead of me. Next thing I want to share is living in my lovely So Sweet Violet bear bag. And I love this bag. It's got velvet on the back and little sequiny the sequin flowers are over here. And then there's a little sequined feather bit for the bear's hair. And just so, so sweet. This is my trifle wrap, and this is my second trifle wrap. My first one I knit as a test knit during Knit Vent, and this one I am using Beehive Yarns, the 13 Days of Halloween, the Wednesday collection, and this is the inspirational photograph for the Wednesday collection, and on the back of that were some pattern ideas, and then there's a little sheet of paper that tells you the colors that each of the mini skeins are named. So I am now, I believe I can tell you what I'm in. I think I'm in color 4. So I started off, I've popped them on one of my Addy Flexi Flips. So the great thing about this pattern is it uses pretty much most of the mini. So this was color 1. And more of a black, slight blue going into color 2, so blue, black, but very, very similar. And then the third color is this little bit more blue with a bit of black. And then the fourth color, stick it on the needle as well, is right here. So very slowly starting to shift, but I absolutely love, I'll try and hold that, how the mood board really, the yarn is being captured in the mood board, or the mood board. Beth has captured the mood board in her yarns, or has she captured the yarns in her mood board? No, the mood board in her yarns. That's what I think. I'm still a little bit I've been back for a week, but I still feel a little bit jet lagged from going to Toronto. Anyway, those are the yarns that I've used so far, and I believe I had just started the second one the last time I shared this with you, so I've made a bit of progress. I did do a bit of unknitting yesterday because I had a mistake, but my trifle wrap is coming along very nicely. Another thing that came with the 13 Days of Halloween was this fun little progress keeper. I also have my little black cat progress keeper from Corner of Craft. I love her stitch markers, so and a black cat on 13 Days of Halloween seems very appropriate, but I did like that as well. So I am now 3.5 colors into my second trifle wrap. My second trifle wrap is going to have the 13 minis only, and I think it's still going to be long enough. By the time it's blocked and soaked and blocked, I think it will stretch and will be quite long enough for the fall season. So where I also hope to wear my Second Avenue wrap, this one's going to be a lot of fun to wear in the fall as well. And I am holding my yarns double with Hedgerow yarns. That is not focusing. There we go. I think it's focused now. This is a silk yak baby alpaca, 40%, yak, 30%, that doesn't make sense, 20%. I might need to put my glasses on. 42% baby alpaca, 10% yak, 35% mulberry silk, and 13% fine merino. So there are 400 meters in 50 grams, which was what was in this lovely skein. I've got a few more skeins upstairs, and so it's called Baby Yak Cloud by Hedgerow Yarns, undyed. Here is my ball band. Yeah, you can't read that either, can you? There. That's what happens when you put your glasses on. You can actually read them. So yes, 42% baby alpaca, 10% yak, 35% mulberry silk, and 13% fine merino. And now I can take my glasses off. I think they give a really bad glare when I wear them on the camera, but it allows me to read, so it's kind of a catch-22. Anyway, this is being held double with this as I make this beautiful, beautiful fabric. I am enjoying knitting through the trifle wrap. I picked it up a couple of days ago and I am doing fairly well, except for, as I said, last night I did have to pull back. I somehow messed up, added in a yarn over where I wasn't supposed to, and I did try to drop it back, made more of a mess than anything, so I just had to bite the bullet, tink it back, because I do want it to be as perfect as possible. I did forget one of my central double decreases and did a bit of fudging there, because this isn't a test knit, this is just for me, but I want it to be, you know, nice, but I can live with a couple of the little design elements. Anyway, it is coming along nicely. I don't know if you can see the very slight color shifts. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next mini looks like. I haven't even opened each of the minis. I've only looked at what the picture looks like, so it's been fun opening them, winding them up, and then knitting them into my trifle wrap. So hopefully the next time we sit down, there will be a lot more progress on this. So goals, bits and bobs, trifle wrap. I also have my Shusui shrug that I would like to spend lots of time with. Yes, I just want to spend as much time knitting this summer as I can, but I also want to be sewing, and there's never enough time, is there? The next project that I'm going to share with you was living in my lovely bunny bag that my wonderful sister-in-law gave to me. This bag is fantastic. One thing it will do is give away that you are a knitter, and I'll talk about that in bits and bobs. This had been where my bits and bobs had previously been, but just didn't quite fit anymore. Plus, I wanted to take this on the plane to Toronto with me. I love this bag because I can throw all of my things in here, my projects, I usually put my notions pouch and counter. I pop candies in here. I have some wonderful candies left over from Knit City. Anything I need, headphones, iPad, anything I need on the plane, I pop in here, pop it beside me, and then that gives me just a little bit more leg room, because if you've been on a plane recently, you know that if you can save a bit of space and pop everything up in the cabinet above you, you're going to breathe a little bit easier. Anyway, so I popped a brand new project in here. Now, I thought I had the ball band and I thought I had my leftover yarn in here, but I can't seem to find it. So I will tell you, I did not have much yarn left over. I think I had about this much. So I played yarn chicken. I lost the first time, pulled back my bound off really super tightly, and won. So I only had a tiny bit of yarn left, and I thought I threw it in my bag yesterday so I could share it with you, but I can't seem to find it. So you'll have to use your imagination. Now, I used a skein of yarn that I've had in my stash for a very long time. It is by the Blue Brick Yarns. It is Killarney Sock, and it is an ombre called Maple. and this is the North Star shawl. This is a new pattern that was just released today by Helen Stewart, who is Curious Handmade, and let me share it with you. So this is my wonderful North Star shawl. I started with the pinky red bit here and progressed. It did this beautiful shift into sort of a rusty reddish brown, shifted into a light brown, and shifted into a dark brown. So this is the North Star shawl. I have had to modify because even though I had 550 yards in my, or maybe I had 500 yards, I think it was 500 yards in the skein, it wasn't quite enough to do the entire shawl, but I'm actually not, I think I'm maybe 4 stitches shy of what I would have been if I had followed the pattern exactly. I took out 1 star repeat through here, and I'm also 2 garter rows short here. So not much of a modification. Super easy to modify this pattern if you don't have quite enough yarn. And it is a lovely, simple knit. I cast this on the plane to Toronto, cast it off a couple of days ago, and I wanted to just have something that was easy. I didn't want to have any extra skeins, so going with the ombre really, I think, shows this pattern off beautifully, and it was ease of use for me. Plus it was a great way to use something that's been in my stash for such a long time. So that is my North Star shawl. As I mentioned, it is a pattern by Helen Stewart. Right now, I think there's a 25% off discount code, but if you're watching this in 3 weeks from now, it will be gone. But anyway, this is a simple pattern. As I said, I cast it on the plane ride to Toronto, and I made pretty good progress as we were flying, and it was easy to pick up. I did some train knitting, I did some knitting at my parents', I did lots of plain knitting, and then I did lots of knitting here as well. So it didn't take a long time to do, and as I said, very easy to modify. So the Blue Brick Yarns are a Canadian yarn dyeing company, and they make beautiful ombres. I've knit with a few of their skeins before. I've used Pride, which is a beautiful rainbow. I've done a Pebble Beach shawl in Pride, and I've done another one in Pride as well. I can't remember which one. Maybe the Spindrift shawl. But it knits up really beautifully, and so nice to use something simple from my stash. And, you know, the North Star, the Canadian North with maple and falling leaves, I kind of thought that was a bit themey, so I enjoyed knitting on this. That was what I got up to the past couple of weeks. So work on 3 projects, photographed my Second Avenue and this project. So that was the good catalyst to get the Second Avenue photographed as well. And I had lots of lovely knitting time. And that's always a wonderful thing. I still have a lot on the couch to share with you. This is going to be a very full edition of brown paper packages. Not only do I have some lovely gifts, I've got some fabric. I've already shared the tea and tea things. I have 2 compression bags filled with yarn. Only 2. So it could have been a lot worse. Anyway, let me share with you some of the lovely things that the wonderful Karina gifted me. She gave me some Tasmanian gold, so the tea that I shared earlier. So Tasmanian gold is a nice hand balm, and my hands are very dry right now, and they definitely need some TLC and some Tasmanian Gold. So I'm looking forward to opening that up and using that on my hands. And Karina also gave me this beautiful tea towel, and it's linen, and it's just such a beautiful fabric. My mother saw it and she said, "You can't use that for dishes, you've got to frame that." So it is absolutely beautiful. And this was, I think, printed in Tasmania. So it's local to her person who makes these beautiful fabrics. So I am a little bit precious with tea towels, and I shouldn't be, but I do get a little bit precious with them. Is that just me? Could be. Maybe not. Hard to say. Anyway, that was the 100% natural linen made in Australia, and with original printed designs. I didn't even need my glasses to read that, which is an accomplishment sometimes. Okay, so that is another thing that was gifted to me, and it's beautiful. And again, as a thank you for helping at Knit City, I was given this wonderful Jezebel bag, and I actually used this when I was in Toronto to pop my wallet, my glasses in, and just carry it around like a purse. It was so simple, and I should probably do that a little bit more because yes, this is perfect for popping some yarn and doing some knitting, and I can do that too, but sometimes I just want to pop out. I need my keys, my wallet, my glasses, and this is a perfect bag. And it's pink and green, and it's wonderful. So that was a Jezebel bag, and again, a lovely, lovely gift. So, lots of nice things on the couch. Now, the things I'm going to share with you next, there's a beautiful fabric store near where my mom lives, and I picked up some fabrics. They do third yards, and I've got to stop. I have dreams of making a quilt, so every time I'm in there I pick up some more because they always have some different ones, and I just love them. This one was really quite beautiful with all the butterflies and the flowers. Hydrangeas, roses, butterflies. Can't resist, so I picked that up. I have so many goals, too many goals. And then there was this fun star one. I've got this in a different blue color, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to have the aqua turquoise with the purpley one that I have. And then I got just some fun colors. And yes, I got some yellow as well. So just a few to add to my, they're not fat quarters, they're fat thirds collection. I know, I need no more. I have been enjoying sewing up the Fran pajamas, and I'm starting to think about Christmas, and I bought some Toronto Maple Leafs flannel to make a pair of pajamas for Isaac because he loves his Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's a little bit easier to get this in Ontario than in Vancouver. So that was something I picked up for some Christmas sewing. So that is the fabric content, and now we're going to get to my compression bags of yarn. And I don't think I went too crazy at Knit City. I really don't. Oh, I bought a bottle of soak as well in a new flavor called Wild Mint. I think it's called Wild Mint. So I bought a bottle of soak for me because I knew that I was bringing a big suitcase home and I was going to be checking it. So put it in some Ziploc bags so it wouldn't explode. So that is in with all of my soak bottles, so I can choose whichever flavor I would like to use. And I also bought a bottle of soak, same flavor, for my mother as well. In this compression bag, And I just unpacked my suitcase today because I wanted to keep everything together. I mentioned that Karina and I went to the knitting loft on the Thursday after I arrived. So I flew in on Wednesday, met Karina on the Thursday. We went to the knitting loft, we did a little bit of shopping, and then I went downtown. And I'll talk about that in bits and bobs. But we had a lovely visit at the knitting loft, and a couple of weeks before I had wanted to stop by the knitting loft to pick something up, but unfortunately the traffic was so bad in Toronto that I missed closing time. So I was unable to get this, and I wanted to get a skein of Wee Rainbow on a Vespa by La Bien-Aimée. So Wee Rainbow on a Vespa on their mohair. I have knit with this colorway a long time ago. I did a test knit and I gifted it to my son's teacher who also drove a Vespa. And so when I saw that this colorway was back in, I wanted to figure out what I wanted to knit with it. I didn't want to make socks. I've already made a shawl. I thought I would really like to make the Elton sweater. So I've already knit a cardigan, but I thought this would be a fun colorway to use in the mohair portion. So Wee Rainbow on a Vespa has been in my brain for a little bit, and I definitely wanted to make sure I picked that up. And I made a list going into the knitting loft, and proudly I stuck to it. I did get the one skein of the mohair, and I bought myself a 2.5 millimeter crochet hook. And this is a hard size to get, so I did look online to see if they had it. And I have plans to crochet another old rose wrap, which is a free pattern on loop. And it calls for a 2.5 millimeter crochet hook. I've used, I think, a 2.75 for my first one, and I was a little bit shy on yarn. I have my yarn that I've had in my stash for years to make a second old rose wrap, and now I have the correct crochet hook size. So that was on my list at the knitting loft, and I stuck to it. So I was very proud of that. I've changed the battery, and I have popped my glasses on for the next little bit, which are the yarns and wonderful things that I picked up from Knit City. Now I did buy some soak, and that is in with all of my other soak flavors. I picked up the wild mint. I bought a bottle for myself and a bottle for my mom because she likes soak as well. And in the smaller compression bag, I have some beautiful stitch markers from Yarn Bowler. And these were a gift, which was just lovely. Look at the little tiny pom-poms as stitch markers. And I just loved these colors here. So that was a lovely treat that the owner of Yarn Bowler gave to us. And I have some beautiful yarns I'm going to share from Louie and Lola Yarns, and these were all gifts from Karina as a thank you. Now, her merino possum yarn is gorgeous. I do have some DK. I have been wanting to get some of her fingering weight yarn in the merino possum for years, but I just hadn't bit the bullet. And the entire weekend, oh, the beautiful yarn rows filled with, the racks filled with this beautiful merino possum. They were flying off the shelf like crazy. Greg just came home and we just put the groceries away. Anyway, I was talking about how this beautiful wall of yarn, especially the merino possum, the colors just kept dwindling over the weekend because this is such gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. And at the end of the weekend, I was asked if there was any yarn that I would really love. And I was happily able to get my hands on some merino possum. I do have a very secret test knit that I'm hoping to use this on. And look at this gorgeous, gorgeous Louie and Lola merino possum fingering in the colorway Chai. And this is an 80% merino, 20% possum fur. There are 425 meters in each of these skeins, and I have something wonderful that I am hoping to make with these, and they're just such a beautiful soft color, and I think it's going to make the pattern really, really pop. So I just need to wait to get a hold of that test knit, and I'll be very, very excited to share that with you when it is time. Anyway, that is a beautiful set of 3 yarns that I picked up with a purpose. And there were so many beautiful colors. And I was debating between an orange, and then I pulled this one off the shelf and I thought, oh yes, this one will do. And oh, so many beautiful colors. And just getting to squish yarn all weekend at Knit City Toronto was really, really lovely. So I can now put these in my stash and put my compression bag away for another trip somewhere. So these things are great, especially for yarn. But I have yet another compression bag here, and I have some beautiful yarns in here. Now, some of these are gifts from Karina, and I did purchase a sweater quantity of some other yarn that I'm excited to share with you. But I will share my other, so I've got my beautiful merino possum here, and I have some wonderful merino silk yak, also a fingering weight, and I have picked these 4 in the hopes that there will be a beautiful test knit that these will go really nicely in, and let's just mix them up a little bit. I thought they flowed so nicely together, and while I wasn't quite 100% sure what that test knit was going to look like and which yarns were going to be used, I think I have a better idea now on how I'm going to use these yarns, because the test knit, it'll just look a little bit, I'll be using, instead of one color, I'll be using multiple colors. And I think I'm going to be holding my yarns double with maybe some Surrey alpaca silk. I think will look really, really nice. So let's go through these colorways. And this one here is called, and I don't know if I'm going to say this properly, Freysinset. And these are all Tasmanian inspired colorways. So Freysinset, Freycincet. And I don't know what that is. And these yarns are all 60% superwash merino, 20% silk, and 20% yak. There's 366 meters or 400 yards in each of the 100 gram skeins. So this beautiful bluey colorway. And then this one here is called O'Neill's Creek. And it's got lots of beautiful little shots of color in it, and I think these just they flow so nicely together. This one here is called Mali, and it's a beautiful rusty color. And then the last one is Chudley, in Ontario, there's a place called Chudley's Apples. I don't think it's quite the same thing, but look at that beautiful gold. And as I said, I think these colors really flow so beautifully together. So plans for another test knit. I have a little bit more silk yak. I didn't want to take too much, but when we put the yarns up onto the grid, this one caught my attention, and I have no idea how this didn't sell out because I think it is absolutely so gorgeous. This one is called Little Blue Lake, and it was at the top right-hand corner of the merino silk yak fingering wall, and as I said, it captured my attention when I was setting it up on the Friday, and I was sure it was going to be gone. But at the end of the weekend, I was able to get a sweater quantity. So I will make a beautiful sweater to remind me of my Knit City weekend and my wonderful time with Karina and Ian and of Louie and Lola Yarns. And oh, look at those. How did they last all weekend? Like, they're perfect for spring, summer. Little Blue Lake on merino silk yak. And I'm not sure which sweater I'm going to make with these, but something that will be really lovely and drapey. I'll have to look through and figure that out, but I love these. I'll probably have to alternate, but love, love, love. So that was my lovely gift of yarns from Karina for helping out, and 2 of those are set for test knits and 1 for an eventual sweater for me to remember a wonderful week in Toronto. Now, I did make 1 purchase of yarn at Knit City, and I've contemplated buying this yarn for a couple of years now, but never did. And the yarns that I purchased are from Black Sheep Farm, and this is a farm that is near to Emily Foden, who used to dye Viola yarns, and she's often sold some of this yarn on her website. She has stopped dyeing now, and I don't believe she's selling their yarn anymore, but you can go to justblacksheep.com if you would like to get some of these. But I saw Emily at Knit City. It was lovely to see her again. She reminded me that I had test knit her wonderful sock pattern, which I never thought I would test knit sock patterns, and hers was the first one I test knit, and it's been a fun run since. Anyway, I picked up this beautiful Luna yarn. It's kind of a brownish color, and there were different colors. There were white, black, gray, and they're all just the natural color from the sheep. And I picked up 6 skeins of this because I have a plan. This is 100% wool, 100 grams, 473 yards, 2-ply, and it's very sheepy smelling and just very rustic. Lots of vegetable matter in there as well. And this one is called Luna. And I bought 6 of these because I would like to make a birch, which is a fisherman's rib sweater pattern from Andrea Mowry. I've had it in my Ravelry library for ages, and because it is fisherman's rib, you're sort of I think you're holding it double. It had quite a bit of yardage requirement. So 6 skeins should hopefully get me that nice squishy, because the fisherman's rib is very much like my bits and bobs. Don't lose the needle, Tracy. And just that squishy, sort of ribbed, thick, and I think it'll just look amazing in this rusticy yarn. And once all the vegetable matter is sort of rinsed out as best as possible, it won't be as itchy, but it'll be a beautiful sweater for hopefully the fall, if I can get to it. So while I didn't go too crazy with all the yarn fumes at Knit City, I did get up to a little bit while I was there. Lots of gifts, which was really, really lovely, but some beautiful purchases as well. And honestly, how did this stay on the yarn rack as long as it did? Because too gorgeous. It's now time for Bits and Bobs, and this is my segment where I talk about anything and everything not necessarily knitting related. And I forgot to share a couple of things with you the last Bits and Bobs, which I realized after I had uploaded and thought, oh, I definitely have to make sure I talk about that. Plus, I had such a fantastic time in Toronto. I met the most wonderful people, and it was just such an amazing week. I'm so glad I went. So I've got lots to share in Bits and Bobs as well. Now, back in late December, I talked about my word of the year, and I completely forgot to tell you what it was. I did go with audacious, but not in the rude sense, more like, bold. So audacious is my word of the year, and I was given a lovely, lovely gift to remind me of my word of the year. Audacious. And this was a gift from my lovely friend Danny, who is Little Bobbins, and she made me this beautiful beaded bracelet, just a lovely little stretch bracelet, and it says audacious on it, which sometimes I need that reminder that, I just need to push a little bit out of my comfort zone sometimes. So that is there on my wrist to remind me, and probably I wasn't wearing it the last time I podcast. Otherwise, I would have said, I was given this beautiful, beautiful bracelet. So what a fantastic way to remember your word of the year as well, and a great, great memory, and such a wonderful gift from Danny. Thank you. Audacious. I'm trying. There are days, and then there are days. So that was one of the things that I wanted to share. And the other thing I forgot to share with you is that my son Isaac is going to be in a musical this summer, which is going to be held at the Malkin Bowl at Stanley Park. And he's going to be in something called Theater Under the Stars, and he is going to be in Cats. They do 2 musical productions each summer, and it lasts throughout July and August. So this year they're doing Cats and School of Rock, both Andrew Lloyd Webber pieces. And he will be Bustopher Jones and Gus the Theater Cat. And he's also understudy for Old Deuteronomy. So I can't believe I forgot to share that with you last time, but something that we're super, super excited about. He's been doing rehearsals since May, the beginning of late April, early May. And he's working away on that. So very, very excited to see that in the summer. I'm hoping to go to opening night, and then we've chosen another night to go in the summer with family. So super, super exciting news, and very, very proud of him for getting cast in Cats. Meow. Speaking of musicals, when I was in Toronto, I actually went to see a couple of musicals and had a lovely time. So on the Thursday, I met Karina. We went to the Knitting Loft. I bought some beautiful wee rainbow on a Vespa. Stuck to my list of what I was going to buy at the Knitting Loft. And then we went downtown and I met my sister, and my sister and I went to see the musical Six. And Six is a musical about the wives of Henry VIII. So divorced, beheaded, dead, died. Divorced, beheaded, lived. So that was Thursday night, and then I went home. My parents are about an hour outside of the city. Got up early, went downtown on the Friday, set up, and we had a very, very, very busy weekend. Sore feet, but a lot of fun. And then on Sunday night at the end of Knit City, I was able to get together with the lovely Nancy, who is Knit Sip Happy, and we went to see Hadestown together. I had watched her podcast just before I left, and she said she was thinking of going to see Hadestown on the Sunday. My son, Isaac, who is going to be in Cats, I like to drop that every once in a while, he saw Hadestown when he was at school, when he was doing his musical theater program, and he saw it in Detroit. So he said, "Oh, Mom, you're gonna love it." So when I heard Nancy was going, I said, "Hey, you want some company?" And so as soon as Knit City was over, I got to sit and have a lovely glass of her special wine that she makes at her business. And she had a beautiful patio in the hotel room that she was staying in, a beautiful view of Lake Ontario and Center Island, and nice sips of beautiful rosé. And then we went to Fran's and had a very quick bite to eat before heading up to the Ed Mirvish Theatre to see Hadestown, and that was really fantastic. We were sitting beside a couple of people, and one of the guys had seen it 5 times already, and this was, I think, going to be his 6th time watching it. So I saw musicals while I was away, which was really, really fun. What a wonderful week I had. I'm so glad I went. I had an amazing flight. Now, here is my rabbit bag. I love to load this up with my headphones, all the stuff. I had put The Office on my iPad. I was going to watch The Office. I had my headphones all charged. I was ready to go. Put all my stuff in my bag. It was ready. And then we get on the plane, and I flew Porter, which is an amazing airline. You only have 2 seats, and you have a little bit more room, which is really nice. And I popped my backpack up in the overhead bin, pulled this out, and the person who was sitting beside me said, "Are you going to Knit City?" Because I had this bag here. Apparently it's a giveaway knitting bag. And I said, "Yes, I am." And I met the wonderful _MakerBee on Instagram. And B, that's her name. And I said, "How do you spell that? B-E-A?" And she pointed at a little bee tattoo that she had on her wrist. And she said, "No, like the bee." So B-E-E. And I had The Office queued up, headphones charged. I didn't even watch anything because B and I just chatted the whole time. I think it was like the best flight I've ever been on. Best company. And I said to her, "This is more fun than sitting with my husband or my sons." Like, it was just so, so lovely. And I cast on my North Star shawl, so a very, very special knit. And oh my goodness, B was just such a joy to sit beside. And so I found out she has a podcast. Now, I will warn you, because she warned me, sometimes she drops some of those little bombs that I try not to drop on my podcast. But you know, if you like a podcast and you don't mind a little bit of salty language, Bee's a lovely podcast to watch. I've watched a couple of her podcasts now, and she was telling all about our flight in her last podcast. And oh, it was just, I cannot tell you how wonderful it was. And yeah, all because I had this wonderful bag. I mean, I would have pulled it out and knit anyway, and then she would have realized I was a knitter, but just "Are you going to Knit City?" Yes, I am. So, and then of course I saw her at Knit City a couple of times. She came over and said hello. While we were, on the plane, I was sharing what's in my Notion pouch, and I pulled out my Thread and Maple, I love this thing, needle holder. It's got a little magnet on the back so that if you've got your other magnetic Notions pouch, it can stick to it, which is fantastic. Want to see what's in my nose pouch? That's another day, perhaps. Anyway, so B thought this was a really fantastic thing. And Karina, Lou and Lola Yarns, was in the booth with Thread and Maple. We were all sharing a booth together. So B came and purchased a little pouch that had scissors and a needle holder in it as well. I think she also got the pink leather. I don't have that one. I have this one, and then I have the little scissor thing, which you can tell it's magnetic because it's attracted needles and lovely little bulb. What do you call those? Bulb stitch markers, pins. I've had these for years. Love this. This is probably one of my favorite things. It's great to protect things in your bag, but I actually don't use this as often as I use this. But I do love the fact they're both magnetic. Anyway, so B came to the booth, picked up her lovely little Thread and Maple thing, which she shared on her podcast, and just, oh, such a joy to meet B. It really was. And if you don't mind a little bit of salty language, definitely check her out. She's so, so fun. And she used to own a vintage store. And she's just such a wonderful, wonderful person. And that plane ride flew by. I mean, yes, it did, but you know, it really did. It was, oh, such a joy. And all because I had this wonderful bag from my sister-in-law. And as you saw, I finished my North Star. And I also shared some of the Werthers that were in my bag. So that was how the trip started off. A very early morning flight with a wonderful companion in the seat next to me. And then the next day, as I was meeting Karina at Yorkdale, which is a huge, huge mall, I happened to be walking through and I ran into my old boss, who I adore. I absolutely adore. He's retired now. And all I heard was, "Tracy, is that you?" And if you've ever been to Toronto and you've been to Yorkdale, it is huge. It's a huge mall. So the fact that you run into anybody there, when you're both really out of context. I mean, I've flown in from Vancouver the day before, and he's usually in a very different area of the city. It was just such a joy. I was only able to spend about 2 minutes with him and have a quick update. I need to send him an email, but oh, just joyful, joyful. And then of course I got to meet Karina and Ian, and that was absolutely wonderful. And we went to the knitting loft and had a lovely chat with Emily, who works at the knitting loft, and just a fun day. I did mention I then went downtown. My sister and I went to see Six, and we had a really great evening. She got her gift of Six and socks, which I did finish the socks for her birthday, so those were gifted to her as well. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday were full on, as I knew they would be. I took the train down on Saturday, and I took the bus down Saturday, took the train home, and then took the train Sunday and back again Sunday night. And just a very whirlwind weekend, very, very busy, but lots of fun. And I met someone else that I used to work with when I was, Karina said, "Go get your tea now," because I needed a tea from my Tim Hortons, because my steep tea is my blood fuel. And I walked around the corner to go get my tea, and I saw this wonderful girl that I had worked with back in 2008, I believe. And she crochets. That's okay. She works with fiber. But it was just so lovely to see her, plus seeing my old boss. There was so much joy that weekend. Knit City was definitely overwhelming with all of the yarn fumes, but it was so nice to be able to see some of the people that I haven't seen in a long time. I was able to see Jen, who used to own the Purple Pearl. It was so lovely to see her and catch up. and very briefly, but it was lovely. And then of course I saw Emily of Viola Yarns, and then I saw a couple of people who watched the podcast. So Jenny came and said hello to me, and that was just so lovely. And Jenny bought a skein of this, Little Blue Lake, and I hope you love it as much as I do. And yeah, can you believe that was still on the rack at the end? So nice to meet Jenny in person. And then there was another viewer, and I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, but you were there with your son. And your son is absolutely adorable, and he does some crafting as well. And it was just such a joy. I think I turned bright red when anybody said anything about the podcast to me, so I get a little bit shy sometimes. Anyway, it was just such a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And as I mentioned, I saw Nancy of Knit Sip Happy, and many years ago when Nancy started watching the podcast, I had mentioned about the Vine, a place that I'd gone with my cousin, and through Instagram we discovered that her second cousin was married to my second cousin, so we've had a lovely little chatter and banter for many years. And so when we finally were able to get together, it was like we've known each other for years, even though that was the first time we actually were meeting in real life. And I just had such an amazing time going out with Nancy and sipping wine. It was just so wonderful. I'm so glad I went. I was hesitant to go, but definitely a wonderful week. And then Knit City was over, and it was a lot calmer. So the Monday, my sister had her birthday meal at the house, so we got to spend a little bit more time with her. And Tuesday, it's awful. I just had a couple quiet days. I think I did a little bit of running around with my mom. Tuesday we went down to visit my sister-in-law on the other side of the border, and then of course we went to Greaves and bought tea and jam, toast and jam, not toast, just tea and jam. And it was a beautiful sunny day that day, and got to spend some more time with my mom, which was lovely. And Wednesday I went to the fabric store, got myself in a little bit of trouble, but when Isaac gets his pajamas, he'll be absolutely thrilled. I have to hide the fabric from him until I make those. Anyway, that was a lot for bits and bobs. I'm glad I was audacious and went to Knit City. I'm hoping I haven't forgotten anything. Lots and lots of chat. Oh, I forgot to say, so at the end of my school year, we did a big showcase, and the song I chose was Some People from Gypsy, and so I went on stage and sang that. And I think I loved that one so much because it starts off with some people get a thrill knitting sweaters and sitting still. Goals for the summer, in addition to doing yoga every day, which I've been very good about doing, is I just want to be some people, sit and knit sweaters. These are all for sweaters. Elton, Birch, no, that's unknown. I think I chose that song just because I love the irony of it, because, you know, I love to knit. So yes, I want to be some people this summer. Just try and breathe in the relaxation before I go back to school in September. In the meantime, yoga, knitting, hopefully a little bit more podcasting this summer too. Anyway, that is all I have for bits and bobs, and that was a lot. Thank you so much for joining me on Knitting on the Float this week. It has been, I think, a long episode. I hope that you enjoyed your beverage of choice. I'm now almost down, and it is definitely cold, but that's okay. I drink cold tea. It's summer, it's like iced tea. It's fantastic. maybe next time we will try one of my new teas because they'll be delicious. Hopefully next time when we visit, I will have either a bits and bobs finished or a trifle wrap finished. I also want to be doing some work on my shui shrug. Plus, I want to knit sweaters. I told you I want to be some people. Anyway, have the most wonderful couple of weeks until I see you again. And I'm wishing you well. I hope that you have had a wonderful couple of weeks and that you have a wonderful couple of weeks coming up. Bye. Well, it is lovely to be able to easily pack away my compression bags with the suitcase and all of that stuff. I have a very challenging task ahead of me. I need to go up to the loft and I need to put my things away until they are ready to be knit. I try not to have too many whips on the go. It was really absolutely fantastic to take the 2nd Avenue wrap off my whip list, even though it's been done for over a year. But, oh, all the whips that I have ahead of me. Beautiful, beautiful cast-ons.